you. First of all, thank you to the Start Out team for putting on this event. I really appreciate Robyn and Anthony also taking the time, so thanks for being here. It's lovely to see everyone's faces. If you do have the chance to turn on your camera, I'd love to meet you virtually. It's quite a cozy session, so we could probably make it interactive. So thank you for everyone who's turned it on. I'm Tamanna, I'm YC's Outreach Manager. I'm gonna spend no more than 10 minutes just going through a quick slideshow. So we have, I just wanna get the basics about Y Combinator out of the way. And I wanna spend most of my time talking to Anthony and Robyn about best practices to apply in the YC experience because they obviously got in. So they'll be able to answer and just sort of walk you through the process way better than me. So I'm just gonna quickly share my screen so we can just go over these slides really quick. Let me know if you all can see it. Is it visible at the moment? No, not yet.
Early, almost.
Almost. How about now?
Done. There it is.
Yeah, everyone can see
good.
it? Okay, awesome. Cool. Still don't know how to use Zoom after a year and a half. It's all good. Everything's fine. Okay, awesome. So YC is a startup accelerator and we help your startup at all different levels. So if you're just learning how to start a company, finding customers, raising angel funding, hiring employees, or whether you're fundraising with your Series A or scaling, we do it all. We have multiple programs from the beginning to the end line of your company. On the side, you'll see a couple of our successful companies. And honestly, all these founders are quite incredible. So these companies have become a success because of the founders. So I'm excited to talk. I'm just going to keep fangirling over Robyn and Anthony because they're founders, but you know, they're the main people of the show. And then the next thing is these are a couple of stats about YC. So in the past couple of years, this is our 16th year, we funded over 3,000 companies. And in the past year, it's been, past 2 years, it's been 1,000 companies because we've been able to go virtual and just provide more access to folks. We have around 6,000 founders and alumni in our internal channel, which is Bookface, a combination of Facebook and LinkedIn, an online community for everyone who's been a part of YC. And our companies in total have 300 billion in valuation. They've raised 40 billion. It's quite cool. We have more than 125 companies who are valued at 100 million and more than 60 that are currently valued at more than $1 billion. And we do actually have the biggest portfolio of life science companies in the world, which is quite interesting and cool. And then in terms of YC in general, we have an open application. So in terms of applying, all you need to go and do is go to ycombinator.com/apply. The application is free. It's accessible to everyone. You don't need to know anyone in the ecosystem or anyone at YC. And once you get into the program, you get a plethora of advice from partners who have either had companies that have exited or IPO'd. And because of the brand name we've built, you are usually able to raise more money at a higher valuation from better investors. But I want to focus more on the secret advantages. So the first thing is you get automatic customers when you're in a batch. Your batch mates are probably some of the folks who might be able to use your product and give you feedback. There are a lot of corporate deals that are going on and a lot of like discounts and credits you get because of our partners. And then what I mentioned before, we have something called Bookface, which is an alumni network. So you can tap into that resource and get advice from experts in your field, or if you want to, you know, change into another industry, you can sort of tap into everyone, and folks are pretty much everywhere. A really cool thing is we have an investor database. So that's a very honest replica of exactly the experience folks have had with investors, regardless of whether it's good or bad. It's quite candid, and it'll tell you like you might not want to engage with X investor because of Y reasons. And then, you know, I mentioned brand before, but I think the most crucial thing is probably batchmates. You have other folks who are going through the experience with you. So that also creates a lot of community. And then a couple of quick links. As I mentioned before, you can apply to YC with ycombinator.com/apply. If you're interested in working at a startup, but you're not ready to start a startup, we have a resource called Work at a Startup, which is basically LinkedIn for all of our portfolio companies. You upload one resume and they're able to see if you're a good fit. And then we have Startup School, which is an online curriculum, everything. It has everything about startups for the most basic to advanced topics. Our blog will keep you updated in terms of events. And then we also just released co-founder matching. So Startup School has a separate arm where you are able to find a co-founder if you're looking for one. Also, my email is on there. It's just tamanna@ycombinator.com. I am happy to answer questions at any given point. So feel free to email me. I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I would love if Robyn and Anthony can introduce themselves.
You want to go for it, Robyn?
Okay. So hi, everyone. My name's Robyn. My pronouns are she, her. I'm the CEO and founder of Her. And we are a dating and community platform for queer women, non-binary, trans, and gender non-conforming people. I did YC in summer 2015, which is a very long time ago now. And we are still going and still growing.
Hi, everyone. My name is Anthony. I'm from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I was in YC's most recent batch. So I think we have awesome kind of two perspectives here. Robyn, coming from a bit later, and me very recent in YC. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Lumify. We are a super app for nurses. We basically unify everything a nurse needs throughout their profession into one digital ecosystem. So yeah, super excited to chat with you all today.
Awesome. Thank you both for that. So I guess my first question would be, why did you apply to YC?
So I applied to YC. My co-founder and I applied to YC. Well, for context, we're both nurses. So anyone can be an entrepreneur and founder for sure. We don't have business backgrounds. We don't have MBAs or engineering, software engineering backgrounds. And we actually were starting Lumify with a hardware product. And we really, really knew that we had this incredible community of users. We were really intentional about building this genuine and transparent community of nurses. But we really didn't know how we were going to scale that into a large company. And we definitely wanted to. We both were going full time. We were leaving our bedside positions. And we really kind of wanted to figure out how we could take this community that we'd curated in this large user base and further monetize it and basically scale it into a larger company. So really, we wanted to do YC because we felt that YC was the best place to go to really figure out how to create a bigger company out of what we had built at Lumify so far. And really, that's exactly what we did. We kind of walked into YC with this simple hardware product, which is a wearable light for nurses. And you may be wondering how that connects to this super app that we ended up building during YC. But with working with our partners and interviewing a lot of users, which you definitely are encouraged to do during YC, we were able to kind of position our user base and partners that we had curated before YC into a way that is a bit more scalable and something that can really help us grow more quickly and kind of more tech focused. So for us, going into YC was really a way to scale Lumify into a bigger company.
Cool. I applied to YC. So in 2015, I was still based in London, and we had closed a round of about $1 million in funding. And I'd actually done an accelerator in the UK in 2014. And one of my investors at the time was Alexis Ohanian, who was a partner at YC at the time. And so he was like, oh, you should think about doing YC. And I was like, are you kidding? I've just raised $1 million. Like, why on earth would I do YC? I'm rich now. And then as the call ended, I thought about it and I was like, he's pretty smart and maybe I should really think about this. And then pretty quickly realized this is probably a really good thing. I should think about this. So I applied, got an interview that year, but didn't get in. And then applied again the next time and got in the second time. And I think for me, like the main reason, like from London, especially at the time in like 2015, YC was like the holy grail of startups. It was like, where all these like amazing companies were, and it felt very like disconnected from my like startup community in London. And I think it came to light to me through Alexis, but when I actually like when I started thinking about wanting to apply and the benefit that I would get, it was really just because I wanted the company to get bigger and get massive. And YC seemed like the place where I could get help for that to happen. So that was why I applied.
Got it. And you both briefly went into, why you started your company and why this was important. Do you have advice for anyone who's in your position, who's very passionate about what they want to create, but they don't really know what next steps are?
I think it's interesting. Neither of us are technical founders, to like the classic engineer, because that's definitely YC has a strong reputation that is needed, or there needs to be this like 3-team, like a triangle kind of like founder combo. I'm a solo founder, and so I think it's great that we're both here. Like I also wasn't an engineer by background. I used to work in branding. Started the company because I was single and looking for a girlfriend, and there wasn't any single app that existed that had been built for queer women. And so for me, like my approach to getting into it was save money was my first thing. Like I wanted to have a bootstrap fund to get started with. So I took on extra jobs and started like building up a bit of a cash reserve. And then I felt uncomfortable working in the world of tech without really understanding what I was talking about. So I started going to different coding classes and like learning it was a general assembly front end immersive program. So I did that and then started like learning a bunch. I was like watching a bunch online. I wish that the whole like startup school like online program I think is amazing. And I don't think it existed when I started. There was like the odd bits here or there. But yeah, everything was kind of like self-started. But for me, I wanted like a secure like backup fund for myself and like a backup plan. So if I ran out of money, what I was going to do personally, like where I would live and what I would do. But I just started doing things, which sounds really basic, but there is actually a very big and binary difference between having an idea and not doing anything about it to having an idea and actually doing something about it, and like not going out for dinner with your friends and instead staying in to like work on this idea and build something and getting it closer to publishing something.
That's amazing, Robyn. I love how you took some coding classes. I definitely wish I did that. I certainly didn't. We kind of were just thrown into this world of starting a business. I think we again started with a hardware product. And this very much stemmed from our firsthand experience as nurses. We were working during COVID and we were always waking up our patients, and we really felt there was a lack of tools and resources for frontline healthcare workers. So that was kind of the spark for us to start building Lumify. Was really just we wanted to support our fellow colleagues, our fellow nurses that were really struggling during the pandemic, but long time before as well. So I think, yes, getting started is definitely the hardest part, as Robyn said. Like if you have an idea, I think it can be scary to start. I feel like for us, the thing that always kept us going was just launching something. And I think this is definitely something YC teaches you as well. We started with this really, really, really scrappy product that we basically just like scrapped together ourselves. Like we found a bunch of products online, and then luckily, we were able to find a manufacturer because we just messaged a ton of people on LinkedIn, and we're super, super scrappy with this kind of first version of our product. And it was the very same mindset for launching, the first version of our hub, our kind of curation of resources and tools that we've unified for nurses. Didn't have a technical lead during YC. I built like our MVP using like no code websites like Webflow, and basically just got something out there to users. And before you know it, like it started getting a lot of attention and we were starting to build traction. And I think that just goes to show you don't have to have something super polished to get started. I think it's actually better to just have something super scrappy and see like how people will react to it, see if it's something they will use, see if it's something they'll pay for. So our mentality has always just been to launch something, even if we're super embarrassed about it and it's kind of cringy. It seems like it's really maybe too early. It's definitely not. Just get it out there and see how people react, and then go from there. And you'll be surprised. I think you can build a lot more traction than you might think.
Awesome. Thank you for that. I have a 3-part question. So let me know if you want me to repeat this. I was wondering if you could just give everyone an insight into your general founder journey and what you remind yourself when those moments come around and you're like, I don't know why I'm doing this. It's not working out. And then once we answer that, I'll go into the other 2 parts.
So general founder journey, I have a co-founder, and that has always for me been, I think, personally really helpful, just because my co-founder is very, she's a very like synergistic skill set to mine. Like I'm very kind of visionary, love pitching, love performing, love sales. My co-founder like loves the nitty gritty operations, like back end, setting up our sales taxes, doing all of our supply chain management, working with different folks. So I feel like for us, it's always been really helpful to have that other person to just kind of ground you as you're going through starting a company, which is such a chaotic experience. I think, especially in the early days, which is really where Lumify is. It's just a roller coaster. And I'm sure it's like that, throughout the entire journey of your company. So to have a co-founder that I felt I really worked well with has always been super helpful for when those moments do get hard and it feels like, oh, we're not on the right track, or, oh, we lost this big sale, or, oh, we lost this partner. I just feel like getting to turn to each other in that way has been helpful to me. And we actually met through a hackathon that we both ended up going to. And then before you know, we were creating community together and we were just working super well together. And I think that's how we kind of validated that we would be a great partnership for each other. So yeah, for me, it's always been having a really strong co-founder that I can turn to in the hard times.
Oh, I'm jealous.
I know, Robyn, I'm sorry. I did not set you up well there.
Not one of those. No, but I mean, it's a huge, it's been a big part of like my journey of like not having one. So I think for me, the first few years, I actually didn't notice the difference. Like obviously it meant I had to hire people a lot earlier on. And I think a very different hiring story. Sometimes I think there's this like view or vision of what it means to be like a Silicon Valley startup, and they're like, hire the best person that you can, like hire A+ people, like like A's hire A's and B's hire C's, and all these like stupid phrases. Which like honestly, when I first was hiring people, it was like anyone that would say yes to working with me, I would hire. Like if they just would like give me any of their time, I was like, please come on board and help me, because it was really difficult for me to find people, especially in those early days in London. Frankly, like every single person that I met was like a cis straight white guy in London in engineering. And I was like, hey, how about like queer women falling in love? And they were like, don't really care about the problem. And if I did, is it kind of creepy if I work on this? Not really sure. So I think there was a combination of like me not having any network, not pitching the like product well. But anyway, it led to me being like solo founder. And yeah, for the first few years, I actually was able to just like get shit done really fast and really quickly, because in the early days, like if it's just me as the decision maker, it's like really fast to go through. I think that led to some issues in itself of like me having a bit too much like decision making power, and I had to change that culturally in the company around like year 3 or 4. And in the long run, it's actually been a lot worse, because as the company gets bigger, the decisions get like more, there's not always like a clear answer to a lot of decisions, and I don't have counsel alongside me in the same place to like have that conversation. So definitely feel that pain. And so I think that honestly, for the first like 6 years, I didn't really have anything that came up that like really deeply questioned my motivation. Like I've got some big ass chip on my shoulder, and I've done the therapy sessions to see if my parents gave it to me or where it came from, but like wherever it is, like it exists, and I have like such a hunger to like succeed. And so that honestly has been my main like founder driving story of just like me not wanting to fail. But after like 6 or 7 years, like things have had like really, really tough times. And I think during those tough times, the want to not fail is still the thing that like carries me through the most. Like whatever it is, I just don't want to have like I feel like we've done so well with so much of what we've built. I couldn't bear the thought of like losing it. For me, it's just like queer women have so few big things in this world. Like we are so invisible to so much of society. And I feel so proud to have built a platform that really has like massive scale and shows the size of our community, that it would feel like such a failure to this community if this company didn't make it. And so I think that as part of like my need to succeed is kind of like all compounded to make me figure it the hell out.
Thank you both for being so vulnerable. And I think we do have to go into breakout rooms, but I have a quick last question. This is the actual 3-part question, so bear with me. I was wondering if you both could just talk about, you know, your day-to-day in the YC batch, what that looks like. Like, are you talking to partners, your group office hours, things like that? And then the second thing is, what's, you know, the most valuable thing that you've gotten out of YC? And then the third is probably just any tips you have for folks who are thinking about applying or thinking about, you know, doing the YC program.
You say the first one again. Sorry, I wrote them down, but I missed the first one.
It's really funny because I forgot myself. But the first one was just like your day-to-day. Yeah, your day-to-day at YC. Just like what that looks like. The second thing is like, what's the most valuable thing YC you've gotten out of YC? And then the third would just be like, what are your top tips for a good application to get in?
For me, a super impactful thing of being in YC was we were a team of 6 at the time. And so moving everyone in the house into a house together, we moved to Mountain View, lived together. So it was like a really like a forced function period of time where the whole team was like executing super hard. We were so clear on that one goal, and like we did the whole drew the graph that we wanted to pitch at the end of it, and then knew the growth that we wanted to like build over the whole time of YC, and we're just like, we will do anything to get to that point. So I think really most of my time when you're there was like was just like working with the team. So we would run like probably like a 12-hour day or so, and then like hang out in the evening. And then I would go into YC for, I think, you know, the programs are probably quite different now, but I would go in for dinners and talks and partner meetings. And then I would immediately come back and I'd have written like loads of notes. I'd sit down, tell the team, we'd like replan our next sprint of work and then like push ahead for the next set of stuff. So it was just this like regular cadence of everyone executing. And then towards the last like 2 weeks, everything goes out the window because then it's all about, well, probably the last week even, it's just about demo day and like everything getting ready for that like presentation and pitch practice and gearing up for it. But I didn't do anything actually during the batch. Like I didn't really meet many of the other like founders. Like we'd chat to some people in group or at dinner. But I think we did like 1 or 2 social events the time that we were there. I'll do a pause. You can do part 1 and then I'll come back to part 2.
Perfect. So I had a very different experience, I guess some similarities, but for my batch, we were all virtual. So there was, you know, it didn't have to move to Mountain View. I don't even know what it's called, or I guess Palo Alto area. My co-founder and I we didn't live together, but we basically were in the same house every single day together, 24/7. So my co-founder and I worked very, very closely together. And like Robyn had the, you know, kind of goal of where we wanted to get to by demo day. For us, we were doing a pivot during YC, or as we like to call it, an expansion, just because we luckily had a good amount of users and a good amount of partners. We were just kind of positioning Lumify differently and still had to kind of build out this new, it was like a hub at the time and then it changed again. So yeah, we did a couple of expansions and pivots during YC and then launched this kind of new idea only a couple of weeks before demo day. So it was a bit chaotic. But for us, really, I think what YC presented was an opportunity to really focus in on, you know, just Lumify and be talking to users every day. That was definitely a goal of ours every single day, was to talk to nurses, talk to different stakeholders, talk to partners, just really understand kind of where they were coming from, what the most pressing problems were during COVID, and kind of how Lumify could be positioned to solve those problems. So we talked to a lot of users, especially in like the first 3 weeks of YC. It was just like absolute chaos because we talked to so many nurses and we had a full wall of post-it notes of like all these different problems, and it was absolute chaos. We were like, oh my gosh, there's like 50 different ways we could like take this business, like what makes the most sense. But you know, that's when we would request office hours and debrief with our partners and kind of get their perspective. And what I loved so much about our 3 YC partners that we were assigned, you kind of get assigned a certain amount of YC partners that are in your space or have some sort of background that potentially could be helpful. For us, our 3 YC partners really each brought a very unique perspective. You know, one was a bit more healthcare focused, one was a bit more tech focused, and then one was like the visionary that had all of these crazy ideas. So like depending on our needs, we would kind of like structure where we wanted to go to office hours and chat with them. And that was always really, really helpful to us. We also got super close with our section that we were assigned. And again, this is all happening virtually, which was really convenient because you could just stay right in our office, hop from one call to another. And everything, you know, is happening over Slack, so it's very convenient and efficient. Got super close to our section, which is basically a group of 8 to 9 companies in the batch that you meet with regularly every week, and can kind of keep each other accountable. You go over your goals that you set, your milestones, like every 2 weeks, you kind of set specific metrics that you want to track, and you kind of come back and report it to the group, which was super helpful to us. And then, yeah, we just focused on getting something out there as quickly as possible and growing as much as possible before demo day. And then, as Robyn said, you know, the week or so before demo day was just kind of polishing the pitch, making sure we were communicating what we were building clearly. And then before you know it, it was demo day. So it definitely flew by, but really grateful to kind of have had that time to really focus in. And then, of course, be able to turn to our partners whenever we had a burning question.
I'll go fast on the other like quick 2 ones. So best things I got out of it. Number 1, fundraising incredibly fast at the end of it. It took me about 8 months to raise the first $1 million. And then it took me 8 days to raise $1 million after YC. So you can close money so much faster going through a program like this. Really ruthless feedback from the partners. I had never had such like harsh feedback as I got in YC, but it was kind of the feedback that I think I needed to hear, which like made me make decisions and act a lot faster on where the business should go. Bookface long-term has been the biggest value add. It's such a powerful like resource. I still turn to it pretty much like every day, every other day for advice and information. And lastly, I made a group of 5 other female founders that have literally become like my sisters through this whole journey. Like we have been at each other's weddings, like we ask for scripts when we're firing someone, asking for like HR and legal advice, like that. Having people who are going through this journey at the same time and same pace as you has been hugely, hugely invaluable throughout all of it. And the last one, tips for applying, meet other people who have been through YC, like read everything they have written online, read all the like blog posts, videos, like whatever. Ask for like interview practice sessions with them, get as much advice as you can from people who have been through YC, get them on side. And then if you have a good relationship with them, ask them to recommend you.
Yes, to all of that. Would say the exact same thing as Robyn. I would say one other thing for us that I think was super valuable takeaway from YC was just feeling very empowered in ourselves. I think my co-founder and I have always, and I'm sure a lot of founders feel this, we just felt a lot of imposter syndrome, kind of being in these like tech spaces as nurses. You know, we were the first fully nurse-led team to ever do YC. So we just sometimes felt like we were, you know, just like, oh my gosh, can we actually do this? And YC really empowered us to believe in ourselves. And then I think beyond all the tips that Robyn shared, completely agree with trying to connect with another founder from YC, doing a mock interview, having them look over your application. Just be authentic, honestly. I think sometimes we try to like form ourselves into this script of like, oh, what YC is looking for. But I think ultimately, like, you know your business better than anyone. And if you can just authentically showcase what you've done and what you've found so far, and any unique insights that you've gained throughout your experience so far, I think that will truly showcase positively in the application.
Awesome. Thank you, Robyn and Anthony, for being so vulnerable. I'm just going to close it off with one quick thought. In terms of the application, I think the three most important things we look for is if it's after reading the entire application, it's pretty clear we understand what you're building. So be precise, be as clear. We like to say, try to explain it to your mom or your kid. And if they understand, you've done a great job. The second thing is if you apply more than once, it will never count against you. It's always a great thing when we see folks apply. We've had folks apply up to 13 times and then get in on their 14th time. So that's never something that will work against you. It's just a matter of showing that you have made more progress the second time or the third time you applied than the previous time. And the third thing is, I would say, I think we all have imposter syndrome, but being a founder and having imposter syndrome is just something else. Just apply. You might not get in, you might get in, but maybe we've heard from a lot of founders that even if they don't apply, they just fill out the application form, and that's super helpful and helps them understand what they're doing, why they're doing it, how they're doing it. So that's what I would say. And yeah, off to Nick.
Great. That's awesome. Yeah, so be precise, try again, right? And then you learn some stuff. That's great. Sometimes it's amazing how just actually being forced to explain your idea helps you make a better idea. So with that in mind, we're going to break up into two different breakout rooms. We've got about 17 minutes or so. My idea with the structure is just that whoever is here can ask whatever honest questions they want in a very close-in setting. So take your questions, and Emma's going to just randomly assign breakouts. And and we'll see you there. And then Tamanna and I will kind of bounce back and forth. Enjoy.